Tuned into the E-Carrier Check channel, where we bring you the insider tips, tricks, and insights to drive your sales and logistics business to new heights. Each week, your hosts, Jared and Nate, sit down with the top professionals in the industry, diving deep into everything from prospecting and cold calling to maintaining carrier relationships and maximizing your bottom line. Learn real-world strategies, hear success stories, and get actionable advice you can implement in your business today. So buckle up and get ready for an entertaining and informative ride. This is the E-Carrier Check channel, your source for can't-miss logistics intelligence. Stay tuned.
Hey, good morning and happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the E-Carrier Check Show with your host, Jared and Nate. We have a special guest on today, Paul Clark. Before we dive into him, what's up, Chief Freight Hauler? We got some new mics today, brother. What's up, Tire Killer? You guys, Chief Freight Hauler and Tire Killer, let us know how our mics are sounding, man. What's up, Freight Master Resource? Got some good people here today. But before we get into Paul here, Jared, I just want to kind of get a brief rundown of how your week's been, man. You connect with many brokers this week, so I kind of want to hear those conversations really quick.
You know, it's been an interesting week with capacity in certain parts of the market. Right. I've really enjoyed talking to brokers. We talked to brokers in Southern California, South Texas, also in Florida. And, you know, honestly, I got to say, you know, from just the ground floor of hearing, you know, what's winning and what's not, boy, I tell you what, if you're a broker right now that doesn't have a good network of carriers built up, you need to start. You need to get into it because I think that's really wildly important as we get into some of the summer capacity.
Yeah, I like that. Chief Freight Hauler, man, he's in the passenger seat this week. I haven't trained a driver in 8 to 9 years. Holy cow, bro.
Man, hey, I don't know if that other guy's watching, but brother, you're in the right seat right now. This is it. Yeah. I mean, holy cow, I love it. This is so good. That's so good.
But anyways, you know, today, like I said, we got Paul Clark on today. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Tire Killer, we sound good. Thanks, bro. I'm going to let Paul introduce himself because he has a quite interesting background, over a decade in this industry.
Oh, man.
So I'm excited to hear and pick his brain a little bit about what he's got going on. Paul, I'll hit it over to you, man. Tell us a little about yourself.
Jared, Nate, good morning. Appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to this. Yeah, you know, I've been in the freight game for basically a decade now. I got in the ocean freight, doing container ships over the ocean with a company called United Arab Shipping Company. That was purchased out by another ocean freight company called Hapag-Lloyd. It's like a 150-year-old company. Then I hopped over to Nolan Transport, was there for a minute. Definitely outstanding, wild ride of experience. And now I operate as a freight factor. And it's been an awesome journey. I started up my own marketing website to help carriers. I work with carriers specifically with freight factoring services. And I'm just consulting them, helping them, teaching them, training them. I was talking to a guy last night at 11:30 at night. And I'm like, listen, man, you're going to have to just call me in the morning. It's a little late for me to be texting you, but he got the drill and we were able to move forward. But, you know, I think that's a big part of it. And even before the show started, me and Nate were chit-chatting. You know, I had a carrier call me this morning. It was 7:15. She's calling. She just bought her first 26-foot box truck. She's trying to get going in the LTL game. And I enjoy what I do. You know, it's been an interesting ride from 2015 to 2025. You know, when I got in the game, I know I'd like to say my first baptism by fire, definitely a sink or swim, was hopping on with Nolan Transport. And that was an experience. You know, companies are companies. You know, I once had a conversation with this banker, and he was having trouble running multiple branches with Bank of America, and he eventually ended up meeting one of the senior vice presidents, and he was asking them, you know, can you give me some advice how to run these banks? I need help. How do you run this business? And the senior vice presidents told him, you know, sometimes, let me back up. Maybe let me back up. He said to the person that asked him that question, how do I run these banks? He said, you know how you win a NASCAR race? And the guy said, no, how do you win? Well, if you want to win a NASCAR race, you got to blow up some engines. Sometimes if you want to run a good company, you got to blow up some people. And let's just leave it right there with my description of Nolan Transport, if you follow my analogy. But at the same time too, though, I was there in a time period where I was new to the industry, didn't know anything about over the road. It was an awesome, fun, interesting experience, made a ton of money. Sure. Did I do some handshakes? Did I get some promises? Did people say, do this and we'll reward you? And that doesn't happen? Yeah, totally. But that's part of getting into an industry and getting thick skin and learning and getting experience. It happens. But, you know, I've seen a couple people on your show. A lot of people have some small violins. They hop on and they're on your podcast, and I hear a little bit of a couple sad stories, but not today. You know, Nolan definitely made me a shark from a minnow that I was. I'm appreciative of that experience, and I've able to piggyback that. And now I work with these carriers that are brand new, getting into the business. I'm able to teach them all the tricks that I learned at the Big Box Brokerages. So I'm able helping them navigate those waters and be successful. So that's a little bit of a rundown with me, man.
I love that.
Yeah, that's huge.
I love that. I think, you know, there's something to be said about, you know, I used to work at just a large corporation, you know, 6,000 people plus, and you do get a different type of training. You know what I mean? Now, I was in the jewelry industry, and I worked for Tiffany's and moved all over the country for them, and opened new stores, sold for them. It was kind of a wild situation, but there's something to be said about the structure of the box that you do get from a corporation like that when you go to Big Box. And you really get an understanding of how it is nice to, when you come off of that ledge, which you feel like that's, you know, you almost panic more when you're coming off of it. But there's something to be said about just going into a smaller organization, or an organization that really actually gives a shit about you, or that you can make an actual impact versus being a number. So I get it, man. I totally get it.
Well, it's interesting, you know, Nolan, it was a baptism, you know, long story short, to give you a little bit of a rundown. It's kind of a funny story. I went to college, studied finance, went and got a job, worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. How glorious is that? Everybody's heard that story, right? But it has been interesting having that on my resume. I have applied to jobs over the years, and people have said, hey, you're not exactly what we're looking for, but because you have Enterprise here, we wanted to talk to you. Because people that work at Enterprise are some of the hardest people we've ever spoke to, we've ever hired. So it's interesting to have that as a bullet point or a foundation. So if there's anybody, you know, in college right now watching this, or a recent graduate, that's a great place to start, or starting at one of these big box brokerages. And they have training programs for people right out of school. You know, I have a cousin who just graduated from college, and he interviewed with TQL. TQL is offering, this is interesting data. TQL is offering $39,000 and a 6-month training program. But in that 6-month training program, if you close any accounts, they become house accounts. You don't make any commission for that 6 months. I'm like, all right, that's a little meat grinder, but if you make it, you'll have some thick skin and you'll be in the right direction. But you're right, there's structure, there's training. And then when you get to those smaller brokerage offices, you're a big dog. You've got your licks, you got your stripes, and you don't know how to just carry yourself. You can carry multiple people. So yeah, I can get where you're coming from, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's interesting that, you know, where we're from, we don't have classes like freight brokering or anything like that.
No.
I think the nearest place you can go is like, it's called EWC, a community college, but they'll teach you how to be a freight broker, what to expect, things like that. You know, I didn't know what a broker was until like, you know, 5 or 7 years ago. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I would have loved to have done this, you know, but our town is so small. I don't know why we don't offer that.
It's tiny.
But so I really think that people need to, you know, learn more about what this industry is all about, because it's super important.
Yeah.
It's always going to be around here.
Absolutely.
Everyone talks about the semis on the road, but they don't know where it's going, how it happened, right?
What's going on?
Right. Yeah. So, you know, Nick, what's up, Nick? How you doing, bro? By the way, I just put my first person in timeout, so I'm kind of like excited about
You
that.
kind of just brought the house.
Earthworm, I had to put you in timeout, bro. I think you're kind of trolling me, but Nick says I liked building a big box place, and I liked working within a sort of team of team mindset as we grew. But there came a point where it's just a big place, not a bad place, just a big place.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it too. Real quick on the Jerome Jones and Cheap Freight Hauler.
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys want to, just hit us up at support@ecarriercheck.com. We'll connect you guys. Support@ecarriercheck.com, and we can just email us there, and we'll connect you too anyway. So we got some carriers on here, so it's kind of funny. You start saying TQL, and they're throwing popcorn at the screen right now. They're like, bro,
Cheap Freight Hauler in the passenger seat.
just getting after it. You know, one of my favorite training sessions was with the TQL guy.
I just waved that.
Do you remember do you remember that cat? This cat was going through that meat grinder, like you were saying. And honestly, I got to say, if you can get through that, you can do anything. And it was impressive, man. And I'm like, and he called us like, I felt terrible because he called us on like, he was getting ready to be fired like the next week. He's like, bro, I need a shipper. And I was like, all right, well, let's talk through this. I mean, it's like Wednesday. He's getting fired next Friday. And we sat there and chatted through with, a few things. And I said, here's the thing. I said, no matter what happens next Friday, I said, you can at least give, your best effort the next 7 days, 10 days. And we had a good talk. To be honest with you, I think he did get fired because he sent me an email from a different company later. But you got to get your lumps. You got to go out and do what you got to do. You know what I mean? So.
Well, it's funny you say that. Another part of my short story, the long story of my experience in logistics and transportation. I was an accountant. I went and got a temp job at this United Arab shipping company that was in the merger with Hapag Lloyd to be purchased. And I applied to Nolan Transport, and they did an interview with me. And you know how these big boxes work. All the girls are in the recruiting office because they're all talking to guys. You know that most of the men, this is 90% men, 10% women. It's probably even higher than that margin, but you know what I'm talking about in terms of majority. And these girls literally laughed at me on the phone. They laughed at me and said, why would we need an accountant to be a carrier sales rep? We have no interest in you. And they laughed at me and they hung up. It's like, okay, damn it. What am I supposed to do? I wanted to get into over the road and I'm doing ocean now. I'm going to figure out a back door. I'm going to get in with this company. They've annoyed me now. So I hop on LinkedIn. Somehow I stumbled across a buddy from college. And he wasn't really a buddy. He was just a dude in a class. He was just, when we did one project together, he knew me, I knew him, and we were linked together. And I saw that he worked at Nolan. So, like anybody, have some, integrity. I sent him a message. It was like, hey, man, I'm doing ocean freight. What's your experience working like at brokerage? I'm thinking about applying to TQL, Coyote. What do you think? He's like, Paul, send me your resume right now. I'm going to get you a job. And I didn't even ask. But he had that mindset. He took my resume, went down there 6 months after doing ocean freight. I made this contact with him. He walked over, gave them my resume, and they called me back and said, hey, Paul, we see that you interviewed with us 6 months ago, but I guess since you know Jason, we'll let you come in for an interview. Came in, rocked it, and eventually at Nolan, I was booking 550 loads a month. I was in the top 25% of performers consistently. Some months I was in the top 5%. And then like this that you're referring to at TQL, it just got to the point where the meat grinder, you can only get chewed up so much. And you got to figure out, okay, it's time to go somewhere else. And I saw a gentleman here a moment ago on the stream. He talked about the non-compete. Yeah, you gotta take that non-compete and go find a teeny brokerage that nobody's ever heard of and go put that hat on for 2 years and then figure out where you want to go. But interesting experience, to get rejected, but then be like, you know what? Forget you guys. If you're not going to let me go in the front door, be persistent. I'm going to find a back door. I'm going to get in. I got in. It worked out.
I love that. I love that.
There's, funny enough, we actually talked with a couple of brokers that were kind of in a sticky situation. I guess needless to say, they just weren't happy where they're at. And I think the hardest part is finding out when a perfect time to leave is.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have any advice for those type of people that are just struggling. It's like, should I leave? Should I, any advice for those people that are kind of struggling?
That's a really good point. What it came down to me, I have a sheet. I was thinking about sending it to you or giving it to you guys, but basically I can just sort of describe it. It's you have to have 100 loads and you make 9%. Okay, well then they change the goalpost. You need to book 200 loads and you make 6%. Okay, now you need to book 300 loads. You're going to make 5%. And they keep on moving the goalpost. For me, I got to the point where I basically told the general manager, hey, this is not what you do. This is not what you do. But this is what I did. I basically said, hey guys, fire me or put me in tracking. I can't do this anymore. You changed the goalpost too many times. And I can't do this anymore. I made it seem like, hey, I'm having a panic attack. That's what I told them in the meeting. It's like, you guys, you move. It was unfortunate. But again, using back to that analogy, how do you win an NASCAR race? You got to blow up some engines. And they didn't really care about Paul Clark. They cared about the guy that sits in chair B17. The guy sitting in B17, he generates $47,000 a month in margin. That's what he does on average. That's what we have. I wanted to go from Nolan Transport to OTR Capital, which is their factoring unit. It's like, nah, we don't want you to do that, Paul. We want to leave you right there. And I basically went to the general manager after they changed the goalposts for the fifth or the sixth time. And I was like, listen, guys, I can't do this anymore. You either need to fire me right now or put me in tracking. They put me in tracking. I was in tracking for 2 months, found a small brokerage, went over there, and I became their top performer. Worked out. But in terms of answering your question, Nate, it's a weird situation to be able to read that, because you and Jared both know what an interesting past 2 years the freight market has been in terms of downsizing. Like you said, Jared, a moment ago, everybody needs a new shipper, and you need it yesterday, and you need one today, and you need one tomorrow. Like, you need it. There's no question, which I think is so cool about eCarrierCheck. I think this is an awesome website that you guys have created, an awesome tool, awesome resource. It's sick. I've been telling everybody about it. I sent out a big email to the entire company. It was like, hey, all my coworkers that do exactly what I do, freight factoring services. It's like, hey guys, direct your carriers here, because what I've learned over the years is whether it's brokerage or asset-based carriers, post-COVID, it seems like shippers are more interested, from my experience, just speaking for myself, it seems like shippers are more interested that they want to work with a carrier, they don't want to work with a broker. And I'm seeing more of a trend with that. And when I was, stumbling around the Google machine, I found y'all's website. I was like, whoa, this is the tool that everybody wanted. And, the pre-COVID to the post-COVID market, these people that are getting let go, I can't really say, when do you figure out how to draw the line in the sand? Nate, we were joking a minute ago, I'm single, you're single. It's an interesting market, but when I'm 35, there's a lot of other guys that are 35, 2 kids, a wife, mortgage, XYZ. That's not my life right now. Hopefully it is the future. I sure hope so. But I can't really say. You got to be able to read the room. And I think there's a lot of people that lash out in anger where they're cussing people out, reviews on Google reviews or on Glass. Really, at the end of the day, from my experience, leave on a high note, because you don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. You're going to have to call somebody back, ask them for a reference. You get out of the freight game, and then 2 years later, you need to get back into the freight game. There's a lot of people that I can say for myself that maybe I've been a little too stern with or too verbal in terms of some things. It's like, I burnt a bridge. I burnt a bridge. You know what, man, it would be nice to call them up and just consult them. And I think a lot of part of this business, especially with what I do, because I consult carriers, getting them started from the ground up. The first 90 days, the first 6 months, the first 9 months, the first 12 months, helping them out. And I think a lot of carriers don't understand that you need to utilize your network. Utilize your network. If you're doing a great load for a brokerage, we'll just go with Nolan Transport, and you needed a driver assist, you needed to pull those pallet jacks off, or the pallets off the truck because there were no lumpers there to assist you. Take those pictures, provide them to the broker, do an A+ job. And then in the future, if you need a reference for another broker that says, hey, you haven't been in business for 12 months, we can't work with you, and be like, wait. I've worked with some big box brokerages. I got a name, I got a phone number. Let me use that guy as a reference, and I'd like to work with you. And I think it's a lot of carriers not understanding utilize your network, and they're missing those opportunities with relationships. So that's a really long-winded response to your question, Nathan.
That's perfect.
You know, you got to read the room, know the cards you're holding, and just don't burn bridges. What goes around comes around, especially when you live in a small town, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to do that in the dating scene, unfortunately.
Don't come here, Paul.
You know, Paul, I think you said something that's kind of interesting. I really think that some of the biggest, you know, when we talk to carriers, we love carriers. We try to meet with all of them every time we can, because they've got to fight for themselves. They've got to network, and sometimes I think they just get either overwhelmed, or in some particular cases they feel like, oh, I'm not a good salesman, I'm not going to make this call. And I don't know if you have to even be a salesman. You just have to network. You just have to have genuine curiosity about what those people do and how they do it. And I tell you, the next conversation could change your life. And it's not really a sale, it's just genuine curiosity, right? We're just trying to be able to go, hey, how do you move your freight? How often can I get involved? And there you go. And it's, you know, sometimes people are like, well, I'm only a 1-truck guy or 2-truck guy. It's like, those are the people that can make a difference really quickly. Because all of a sudden, 50 loads a month, all of a sudden adds up very quickly. And so it's just, it's an interesting world. I didn't get to read Wolf Finder's thing here, but
dating advice with carry check and Paul. Yeah, I'm down.
I totally agree.
Well, so Wolflider, if I'm saying that right. Watching this as a freight broker, my job looks good. The story was legendary. Is Jared's speech that helped me land my first clients.
There you go.
I love it, man.
I love it too, brother.
Jared needs to write a book. I've been saying it.
I don't know about a book, but man, I've had some weird scars.
I'm sure Paul has too as well.
I wouldn't mind hearing, you know, a lot of people don't really, unless you live on the coast in a busy area, give us a rundown of the ocean world. I mean, what were you doing? I mean, world. Are you smuggling in drugs? Is it like every video I watch, every movie I watch with my wife, every friggin' container ship is dirty, and there is nothing but weed and cocaine in every container. I don't know how we get our toys and merchant stuff to Walmart. It's all drugs. It's all like this. It feels like what's going on here in the ocean world?
It was fascinating, and I really enjoyed it. And can be completely honest, I wish I had kept my job at the Hapag Lloyd. That was what it was called. It was a 150-year-old shipping company, European, somewhere in Europe. I forget where. The CEO, his name was Hercules. That was the guy's name, and I remember him walking around the office. It was interesting. Anyway, you know, in terms of me giving feedback or advice in regards to that, I'm not exactly the best guy for it. I went from being an accountant, and I hated it. I kept on putting zeros on things. They didn't really like that. So I needed to find a different job. But I use that when I go on dates with girls, and they don't laugh at that joke. But anyway, you know, it was a temp job. I didn't know what I was doing. I hated being an accountant. I needed to do something else. I saw this job. I took it. And it was basically just answering the phone, reserving containers on boats going to India, going to Japan, going to the Horn of Africa. And when people would call in, they'd be like, hey, Paul, I need 20 containers and I needs to be on this crazy name of some ship. And I would look it up and I'm like, okay, well, you want 20, but I can only reserve 10. What's your commodity? What is it? And a lot of times it was cars, it was dirt, it was clay, and it was cocoa. And those are really the majority of the ones that I can remember. But it was interesting. A lot of people would want to move clay out of the port of Savannah because there's a special clay there. And it's like the only place in the world where there's some clay, and they transport it all over the world. But that's kind of it. That's what I did for like 6 months. I was a temp. I didn't do anything magical, but they did offer me other positions as the merger concluded. And I was new to the transportation. I was new to logistics. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I have some friends that are still in the ocean freight game, and they made some outstanding careers. And they're basically just doing business development, just like a business development officer or a freight broker. But they're doing it differently in terms of hey, we're not moving this over the road. We're moving it on these ships with these shipping lanes and these shipping rates. It's very interesting, but there's not as much money. And the reason there's not as much money is because it goes very slowly across the ocean. OTR, they'll pay extra money to get there fast, right? Team driver, there's cash. I remember when I got in it at Nolan Transport, I was on the biggest team and I ended up being the top producer on that team. It was one broker. Again, at the prime, I was moving 550 loads a month. And I don't even know how I was doing that. I don't even know I was doing it. But the guy that I was working for at the time, I was probably 25 years old. And I was working for a broker that was 29. And he was making $20,000 commission checks every month. And I was like, okay, there's money here. I guess this is where I need to hang out.
That's wild. So cheap freight haulers, like it's coal and clay. And I just looked it up just to see what it was. It's like this crazy white clay. I mean, you can buy it like all over the place, but yeah, it's used for ceramics, paper, paints, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, agriculture. It's wild.
Oh,
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So that's something you never learned that until today.
I can't even wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, in terms of the business development for any brokers that are watching right now, they are redoing the Port of Virginia and they're redoing the Port of Savannah and they're ramping it up. Even they're expanding the highway all the way up from Savannah to Atlanta, which you're expecting more volume. So you guys need to be cold calling those warehouses that are in those areas. Go get on eCharrier Check and find those geographic areas and call those shippers because growth is going to be coming out of those areas.
People eat that stuff? What is he talking about? People eat this?
That's wild.
Are they putting it in like salt and pepper? What's going on here?
Paul's like, I don't know about that.
That's the first time I've heard that, but I'll pass.
It's supposed to help an upset stomach.
That's crazy.
Dude, I am so into this. We're buying
I might need that on hand.
We're buying a bag, and next time we go get Mexican food, we're just going to eat it.
Might need it.
Yeah.
That's so fun. That's crazy.
Yeah, I love that.
Paul, really quick, let's talk about factoring because, like, and I'm hungry. Let's talk about factoring. I know you built this site, myfreightnetwork.com. Give me a little bit of feedback on why you built this site and what you do for factoring. How can you help these new carriers get into the business or brokers? And I'll pull up your website as well because I'm a big fan of it.
Absolutely. Basically, I built this watching nothing but YouTube videos because I'm very tech savvy. But I work for this freight factoring company. I've been doing this for 5 years, and I love it. It's given me an opportunity to take the newbies, green people that are brand new. They just registered their MC number, DOT number. They don't know what they're doing, and it's kind of like I use the analogy when I do sales with people. It's like, hey, listen, you're new to the freight game. I've been in this for a minute. If I was to go out and buy a Jimmy John's franchise, I don't know what I'm doing. And moreover, I don't know the questions that I should be asking. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people in this business that, they're asking questions, but they're also, after you sign up with somebody's service, like a TMS or whatever, after you use it for 90 days, it's just like, well, then you learn a lot more questions that you wish you had asked when you did your original, meet and greet conversation when you went to click and purchase the product or service. So basically what I have built here is I've tried to build like a pizza. How can I get these individual peoples? And actually, if you scroll right back up a little bit, Nathan, we'll start at the very top. So basically what I do is I try to go from basically right there, my partners. What I've done is a little bit, love my logo, try to take what I can, right?
Better call Paul.
Keep scrolling down just a little bit. It's going to say my partners. Beautiful picture of me. Awesome. Bingo. All right. So this is where I like to start it. Basically, I've tried to build the correct, perfect team because these carriers, as you guys know, not that I want the government to get involved. I don't, but it's amazing the level of solicitation that these new carriers experience. They register that MC, DOT, insurance, compliance. People in Bangladesh, majority of them, are calling these carriers and they're getting harassed, but they don't know who to trust and who not to trust. So what I do is like, listen, I have to make a varsity team of A players. And that's it. I got one guy, he's in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's been selling trucks for 20 years. He used to have his own, I think it was 5 to 7 truck hotshot fleet. This guy sells trucks. So if carriers need box shots, reefers, dump trucks, flatbeds, you name it, I point the carrier, hey, Go to this guy. He'll buy a truck from him. I got people from California that fly out to Chattanooga, Tennessee to buy a truck from him. People from New York fly down to Chattanooga, Tennessee to buy a truck from this guy. He knows what he's doing. He can give them a great price. Underneath of that, actually, this is a girl in your backyard. She's in Nebraska. You guys are in Nebraska, right?
Yeah. Shout out.
Okay. She's right here in your backyard. Who knows? She could be 2 buildings over, man. If you guys want to give her a call, hit her up. She's she does everything for DOT and MC compliance. I tell carriers, compliance is like gravity. You cannot avoid it, and it's quite complex. Get rid of a representative that's just going to take care of it for you. Get it off your plate. Outsource it. Give it to somebody else. You'll stay in compliant. Keep that authority active. Don't think twice. Underneath of that, I got my dispatcher. This guy's a rock star. He started out with a box truck, and he ended up just sort of mastering. Overly impressed. He has mastered the freight game from a box truck LTL perspective. So he does dispatch. So if anybody's watching that needs a dispatcher, click on his website, check it out. Great rates between him and me for box trucks. My factoring his dispatch, we generate revenue for the carriers that we work with that are brand new. Within 60 days to 90 days, $18,000 a month revenue, which is great for carriers, especially in the market that we're in right now. And then underneath of that, we've got some awesome insurance contacts. Carriers can click on this and check out the video. And then underneath of that, I think I have you guys right there. If that want to make sure it's showcased and carriers can find you, because like you said, carriers can get a little cold feet when they're talking to shippers. And I just tell them, hey guys, have a hat with your logo, have a shirt with your logo. These are carriers that I work with geographically, so carriers can see me. Hey, I will work with everybody everywhere. Call me. Not in Canada, not in Mexico, but you get the gist. Maps are cool. Right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of it in a nutshell. And then I guess if you scroll down a little bit more, I got my YouTube channel, do what I can. I have some awesome resources below that for carriers to click on and just learn, because a lot of what I do, I'm selling a freight factoring service, but I'm consulting them.
Yeah.
Like I was saying last night over here on the couch, it's 11:30. I got a guy in California asking me questions. So if anybody wants to fill out the form, hit send. I'll reach out to you. Happy to help you out if you're trying to start a trading company, or if you're working with a not so great factoring company. A lot of people are cutting costs right now. Everybody knows this because it's been an interesting 2.5 years of a downward bear market in the freight game. But, if there's somebody's looking to switch factoring companies, I can help out with that too. It's a little bit more tedious, but I can do it.
Yeah. This is super huge because people can come to you for factoring, but you're getting so much more than that. You're getting so much info that you probably don't know that you need. This is super good stuff, man. I love that you put the site together. Man,
appreciate
helpful.
it.
Yeah, I've always
wellness.
been a huge fan of just creating as much value as you can, whether it pays off for you or not. I think people just need some resources and somebody to trust. And in this world, it's so hard. I mean, look at Cheap Freight Hauler. It took 10 minutes after applying for my MC for the phone to start ringing. It's real, and these people are calling from all over the world, and it is wild. I mean, it's impossible to know who to trust. Right. And no wonder why my parents get ripped off every other friggin' week, because they get a million phone calls and they make you sound like they're your friend. And here we go. So,
it's going to be interesting, especially in the future. And you guys know this as well, sort of what we were talking about in terms of the majority and the minority. Most men are in this industry, and there are some women, but not as many. This is a bunch of blogs. This is kind of funny. I wrote all of these, but nobody freaking reads them. So then I started making the YouTube videos about the blogs, and it's worked out. But it's going to be interesting though. In the next 2 years, man, people are going to be able to pick their voice. So I'm sure there'll be something that you can click on and change your voice to a woman's voice, because when you're calling male carriers, they'll pick up the phone and they'll listen to a woman. But that, if a guy's calling, you guys know what I'm saying without me saying it. You get my point. But it's coming. And it's going to be interesting. It's exciting and cool, but it's also terrifying and scary.
Yeah, there's some deep fake voice stuff I've already seen where it can change your accent. There's some crazy stuff. I actually had a call that actually sounded like me, which was wild. Because we have so many minutes on YouTube, it's not too hard to get Nate and I's voice. It's an interesting time that we're heading into in the next couple of years. And honestly, I gotta say, I missed the website. Do you mind repeating it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Chief Freight Hauler, it's myfreightnetwork.com. You'll see his beautiful face there with his YouTube channel. Go subscribe to his channel as well. On this website, though, at the bottom of this page, you'll be able to see his YouTube, LinkedIn, X, or Facebook. So definitely go check out his website and connect with everything.
It's also got his phone number, email, everything's right there at the bottom. So, whatever you need to have a chat with him, he's just a good, well-connected guy. Paul, I got to say, man, thank you for coming on today. You're a breath of fresh air, and I'm excited for your excitement and the way you're just trying to help people out. And that's what we need in this world. So, any closing thoughts, Paul, before you run away?
Optimism, man, being transparent with people. I think people, you don't need to sell people, just figure out how to offer value. If you can offer value, they'll remember you and they'll save your number and they'll call you back and they'll do business with you at the end of the day. Don't beg for anybody's business. Kind of like that TQL guy. He's begging for a shipper. He needs one by 5 o'clock today, and some people, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and that's unfortunate. But when you get your feet underneath of yourself, just treat people the way you want to be treated. That's all I want. Yeah. Imagine that's all you guys want. And I appreciate you having me on. It's an awesome tool, awesome resource. I keep bragging about it to everybody that I get on the phone. So thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get a good time, man. Maybe at end of Q2 or end of Q3.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll definitely get you back on too. You guys definitely reach out to Paul. His website's also on his name handle there, myfreightnetwork.com. Reach out to Paul, talk with him, connect. Jared, any closing thoughts on your end, brother?
Man, I tell you what, let's just keep the party going.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I'm with Paul. Just stay genuine, stay curious, and just keep doing what you do. But it does take action. Yeah, for sure, guys. So.
Well, you guys, thanks for tuning in. We are going to be taking Friday off. So tune in next week, and then we'll touch base then.
There we go.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll talk next week.
Later.